back to Food for Thought. On today's episode, we're going to discuss plant breeding. But before I dive into this topic, let's first define what plant breeding is. A general definition from the National Association of Plant Breeders states plant breeding uses principles from a variety of sciences to improve the genetic potential of plants. But where did plant breeding start? We have been breeding plants for centuries, and according to a journal article from Iowa professor Arnell Howler, we have been doing plant and animal breeding for at least 10,000 years. The evolution of civilizations parallels the success of plant breeding, although this has not been recognized by the public. How do we accomplish this task? Back thousands of years ago, we would choose plants that had the best phenotypes or visual characteristics and cross-pollinate them together. We didn't actually understand the genetics of plants until the 1800s, where Gregor Mendel studied pea plants that led into the new science of genetics. With his work, we were truly able to understand how traits were shared from parent to offspring in plants. Although Mendel's work and the study of genetics did not really take off until the 1900s. Today, modern plant breeding now uses genetics as the backbone and multiple sciences to understand how to create high-yielding, high-quality crops. In plant breeding today, you have a couple methods that are used. The first is classical or conventional plant breeding. This is selecting plants to propagate with specific or desirable characteristics and eliminating those with less desirable characteristics. This is one of the most time-consuming methods because you cannot be sure the plants have the traits you want until the offspring grow. Another and more controversial method is modern plant breeding. In modern plant breeding, this is where we will use molecular biology and we will select or genetically modify and insert traits into plants. These plants tend to be transgenic, in other words, mixed with another species of DNA. Best known here is the corn and soybeans, mixed with bacterial genes for built-in resistance to pests and weed killers. A newer technology coming out under modern plant breeding is gene editing. This process will essentially alter foods at less cost without necessarily adding foreign DNA in. Most of the products under development are being altered to turn genes off, such as altering soybeans to now have more of a health profile of olive oil. According to the Washington Post, this new generation of food is expected to be in grocery aisles by early next year. Will it take off? We have yet to see, but the European Union's highest court ruled last summer that the same legislation for GMO will apply to the gene-edited foods as well. I will not go into too much of this debate here, but we do have a concerning issue. On one hand, we have a growing population. According to the UN, we are currently at 7.3 billion people, and we are expected to increase to 9.7 billion people by 2050. Our food production has to increase over 50% to sustain this population growth. This is why science and technology needs to be behind our food production. But on the other hand, it needs to be done in a sustainable and successful manner. This is why plant breeders have a really tough job. They have to create high-yielding, nutritious, climate-tolerant plants. Only as little as 2% of the population of the United States is involved in agricultural crop production. This crop production provides adequate quantities of different crop species to meet the food, feed, fiber, and fuel needs of the remainder of the populations. I leave you with this food for thought. Civilizations couldn't survive without agriculture. Our agriculture cannot sustain our current growth population without modern plant breeding methods. Therefore, it should become evident that plant breeding is one of the main foundations for our civilization. Thank you, and if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to be updated when I post new content.